Hey guys, here doing a quick deck tech of a budget Ruric Thar deck. So, Ruric Thar is a 6/6 for 6, which has Vigilance and Reach, must attack every turn, and he deals 6 damage whenever a player casts a non-creature spell. So let's get started. First things first, we run 6 basic mountains here. Next up, we run 9 forests. Now we move on to our kind of multicolored lands here. We have Gruul Turf, Pinecrest Ridge, Fungal Reaches, Rootbound Crag, Rugged Highlands, Carplusan Forest, Karanda Refuge, Shivian Oasis, and then that's it for that. We have 2 fetch lands here, or aka budget fetches. We have Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. Now we're moving on to our utility lands here. So Kessig Wolfrun allows us to kind of get our creatures in there for more damage. Scarred, it kind of allows us to give our creatures trample and then give them a little anthem effect, or at least one creature an anthem effect. Temple of Abandon was supposed to be in the multicolored, but it's also utility because it does scry. Temple of the False God, taps for 2, it's really good. Mosswort Bridge, pretty explanatory with Hideaway, allows us to cast a spell for free as long as we control a total power of 10 or greater, and in this deck that's very easy to achieve. Tranquil Thicket allows us to cycle and draw. Next up we have 5 snow-covered lands. So we have 2 forests, 2 mountains, and 1 highland weld. I will explain later as to why we actually have those snow-covered lands here. So next, let's go over the ramp package. So we run a lot of ramp in our Ruric Thar because we want to kind of play our big cards as quickly as possible because we have a lot of big cards in this deck. So first up, we have the typical 3 elves here: Findhorn, Line of War, and Elvish Mystic. Search for Tomorrow, Sakura Tribe Elder, Zertod Druid, Rampant Growth. Into the north, this allows us to get our snow-covered lands, put them into tap. It's like a Rampant Growth for snow-covered lands. I believe this is Yavimaya Elder. It's really good. When it enters the battlefield, we get to search for basically 2 basic lands, put them into our hand. We can tap 2, sacrifice them, draw a card. Summerwald Sage, it is a real powerhouse in this deck. Wood Elves, Farhaven Elf, Kadama's Reach, Cultivate, Harrow, Explosive Vegetation, and Ranger's Path here. I do need to get Sky Shroud Claim because it is strictly better than Ranger's Path. So, oh, and then I forgot. This guy is also part of ramp because we can get him out really quickly, and whenever he attacks, he adds basically 6 mana in our colors, which is really great. Alright, so now we're moving on to our draw package here. So first we have Skull Clamp, Magmatic Insight, Faithless Looting, Life's Legacy, Elemental Bond, Outpost Siege, Harmonize, Momentous Fall, Shamanic Revelation. It's really good. Allows us to gain a lot of life and draw a bunch of cards for 5 mana. That's just ridiculous. Garruk's Pack Leader, Soul's Majesty, Primordial Sage, Soul of the Harvest, and this Revelation is kind of a hit or miss. I mean, the deck isn't completely all fatties, so we can kind of miss with the 5 cards. It's happened before. So that kind of ends the draw power there. Next up, we have our library manipulation cards here. We have Cream of the Crop, allows us to kind of reorganize the top X cards of our deck. Well, it doesn't reorganize. We just get to choose 1 card from the top X and put it on top and then put the rest on the bottom. But it's really good when we start playing bigger cards like Terastodon, because then we have a wider selection of cards we can choose from. Genesis Hydra, it's really great. Pretty much better, strictly better than Cream of the Crop, but only hits once. So, Fierce Empath for getting our big dudes. Thicket Elemental allows us to kind of cheat a creature into play. The next cards we have up here are our Anthem cards, or our cards that allow us to kind of give all of our creatures a general effect. So, Scarred Guildmage for Trample, Archetype of Aggression for Trample. Matron Stronghold is actually one a lot of people tend to overlook. When he attacks, we basically give all of our other creatures plus X, where X is the number of attacking creatures, so it makes our other creatures really big whenever he attacks. He's still a 1/1 though, so that's kind of bad. Stonebrow gives all of our creatures with Trample +2/+2. Creeper Hulk allows us to kind of turn our small guys into big guys. Pathbreaker Ibex, kind of the poor man's version of a Craterhoof Behemoth, but works. Paleoth turns half of our creatures into kind of ETB return creature from graveyard. Thunderfoot Baloth tends to give our creatures a bunch of power and trample. Cyclops, haste is really important. Gruul Rage Beast kind of allows our creatures to pick off smaller creatures that our opponents have. The next cards here we have are kind of our cheat creatures into play cards. Flame Shadow Conjuring allows us to copy creature. The Rider here allows us to copy. Guild Feud, odds are you're probably going to hit a creature. So, getting a creature for free at the beginning of each of your upkeeps is pretty good. Next up, we have our spot removal. So we have the Polish Crusher for enchantments, Pelucranos for early game creatures, Acidic Slime for pesky lands, enchantments, or artifacts, Arbor Colossus to kind of get rid of some flying creature, Just of Calamities, a little bit of land hate here. Bane of Progress, we don't run too many enchantments or artifacts, so it's really good. Inferno Titan to pick off creatures, Tyrant's Familiar to kind of pick off creatures again, and Terastodon to kind of blow up non-creature permanents that are really pesky. Because this is a budget deck, so, odds are everybody else is going to play something better than us. Azuri's Predation, it's really good for picking off a bunch of opponent's creatures, and it gives you a bunch of 4/4 green beasts. Next up, we have our two mass token generators here. So Hornet Queen and Rampaging Valus. They make a bunch of dudes. Next up, we have two cards that kind of give us life gain. Nylea's Disciple for our Devotion to Green, which is kind of ridiculous in this deck. Slagworm just gives us a lot of life, and, it destroys a creature whenever it blocks. And then here are kind of two open slots here in the deck. Colossus of Akros right now is used because he is indestructible, and we can turn him into a 20/20 with Trample, which is really good for 18 mana. And then next up is Vorapede, kind of survives 8 board wipes, and it's not too bad. It has Trample as well. And,